really feels like everything's coming down to the wire. We are at our 89th day of the build. We've got appliances showing up. We have a Vista on site, gas serviceman extraordinaire. This guy's great. Throwing in our meters right now. Tomorrow we're gonna call for our final inspection. We have the power company contractors on site. They're upgrading this transformer at the top of the pole. The lineman showed up about noon. They're swapping out a transformer for a larger one so we can run multiple 200 amp services over to this pole, and then we'll swing them around back to the pole behind the small unit, and then we'll get overhead drops to both of our ADUs today. Finally have power, it'll be great. We got really lucky on this one. We own the house next door, and I told the tenant, hey, can we run our build for 3 months off your house and I'll pay your power bill? And she agreed to that, so we were able to carry on. But they'll put our new meters in today and we'll be lit up. So we got Reese up top working on the mast, crimping stuff in. So in a past life, I was a fireman, and we always used to talk trash about the linemen because they thought they were so cool. And they used to have stickers that said, even firefighters have heroes, and it'd be a picture of a lineman. So we like to talk a little trash. We've got mud coming. We're gonna pour it here in about a half hour. Everything is wetted down, compacted, and ready for concrete. Pat and Rocky are gonna finish this approach out, strip the forms tomorrow. We'll backfill the rock up against that leading edge, compact it, and we'll have a driveway. So the first thing I'm gonna do on the upper install is find the center of our studs. I've done that already, and I've measured 16 inches. I've then transferred those measurements onto this upper base, and I'm going to pre-drill everything with this all-in-one pre-drill countersink bit. So up the top of the cabinet and the bottom of the cabinet are gonna get a pre-drilled hole, and then we'll put 3-inch grabbers. We don't want this thing falling off the wall. So take your time and make sure you find the center of your studs and use a long, strong grabber screw. After we get the box mounted to the wall, there's times where we have to suck the two cabinets together. I do that with a simple clamp. Get this thing bubba tight, and then I'll pre-drill a countersink hole and put some grabber screws in there to tighten up these stiles. On a cabinet, anything horizontal is gonna be a rail, anything vertical is gonna be a stile. So to marry these stiles up, we want to clamp, pre-drill, and then screw it home. And just like that, our simple alder shaker style cabinets are installed. I'm gonna leave the toe kicks off and the trim off until after we seal the floor, just trying to stay moving to stay on schedule. I'm gonna bounce next door and go do the same thing. It took us about 4 hours to hang this whole kitchen of prefabricated cabinets, as well as both the vanities in this unit. It's a little bit of extra work and money, but I always like to go with a full depth fridge box so the fridge slides in. One of my pet peeves on a kitchen is a 12-inch cabinet above a fridge that you can't reach. So these are 24-inch full depth. We have a 30 1/8 opening for the stove. A stove is 30 inches. And then we have a 24 1/8 opening right here for the dishwasher. So that's our simple kitchen cabinet. Slight deviation from my normal one wall galley kitchen, but the idea was to look out towards downtown, and the only way to do that was to put a little L to put the kitchen sink here. Concrete truck just pulled off, and we've got a nice broom finish on this driveway approach. 12-foot intake here into our parking area. At the granite warehouse, we've got a few days left to get this build done, and one of the last steps in the process is countertops. So I brought the mommy missile down here, and they're gonna help load me out with 3 9-foot slabs and 6 pieces of backsplash. The first dozen times I did this, they were like, you're crazy, it's gonna break, you can't put that in a van, you need an A-frame. And each time we just show up with the van and make it work. These prefabricated slabs come in 9-foot lengths. They're $315 each, and we can cut them with a standard portable circular saw with a diamond blade. All right, put a little bit of caulking there. Just like that, we've got the last piece of granite installed. I pay about $40 for a diamond blade and throw it on a skill saw, and then we just use a little water stream with a garden hose. It's that simple. We cut these to length here. These are just square cuts. You can use a factory edge if you have one on your slab. They do come with a prefabricated face and one prefabricated side, either a right or a left. So on this slab here, we got a prefabricated right hand because this is an exposed visible edge. So it's got that nice prefabricated soft round all the way around the whole thing. And then the backsplash comes pre-cut at 6 inches. Sometimes I cut that down to the under sill height of the apron thickness. Sometimes I leave it full thickness. But that's what we have here. We do have one seam, and the seam is not biscuited. It's not gonna be ground down perfectly smooth. There's a little bit of a lip you can feel, and I just fill that in with grout. And basically it's an acrylic grout that's very similar in color to the granite, and that seam will just disappear. That's not the most professional way to do this, but to have this done would cost about $3,500, and we did this kitchen ourselves for about $600. So that's the savings. We're trying to do rental grade product, but still make it look professional. Just a few details on the floor prep before we bring in the trio. We're running around with the palm sander and hitting any of these butt joints that have some decent amount of delineation. So we'll hit these, trying to keep the floor as flat as possible, but this will cut down on the work we have to do with the big machine. Got John and Ryan back. We're running the trio over this. This is a random oscillating circular sander with 60 grit pads on it. And it's gonna knock down all the high spots. It's gonna knock down any of our butt joints where we have putty out, and then we'll be able to coat right over this. You could also buff it a couple times if you wanted. I like a little bit more texture on the floor so it's less slippery, and this is a little more affordable. The best money I've ever spent is paying Ryan and John to sand this floor for me. We're coat ready here in the back ADU. Everything's been sanded and vacuumed, and I'm just getting ready to put the first coat of oil down. Make sure you get a really good mix on your floor product. I also like to set it on a tray when I'm mixing so it doesn't spill everywhere. So right now I'm going around in front of my wet leading edge with a little soft bristled brush, get all the close areas at our case legs and our jambs, and then around our finished cabinet boxes. And then after that, I use a big 18-inch synthetic floor applicator to really lay this stuff down. I get about 300 feet per coat out of this stuff, and we're gonna do 3 coats total. There's 100 different ways to do this floor. Feel free to comment below with how you do it, but I have to work really fast because this product sets up quick. So I'm gonna do some touch up with the brush, and then I'm gonna pour a bunch of product on the floor and just lay it out thick with this 18-inch floor application tool. Focusing on keeping a leading edge that's really wet. We don't want to get a dry spot in the floor. We want to also make sure that we're pulling with the grain of the wood. I can go cross grain, but I have to straighten out really quick. And I'm gonna throw my mask back on because I'm starting to get high. I actually paid John to teach me how to do this 20 years ago, and I've done dozens of floors, and every one I do gets a little bit better. So you're not just gonna be perfect at this overnight, but just like with anything else, a little bit of practice, you notice this nice leading edge stays wet. I don't ever want the leading edge to be dry. If that's the case, I need more product. I like to store my brush in areas that aren't going to be seen. This is the dishwasher. So I can set my tool here if I have to go regroup. Anybody can do this. I get so many calls about, Derek, why would you use hardwood instead of luxury vinyl plank? And that's the age-old argument in my world. I just like the way hardwood floors feel. I like that they're repairable. I like that this floor is gonna be here in 100 years. If somebody comes through and thrashes it, we can refinish it without pulling the baseboard and pulling the cabinets and hauling a bunch of stuff to the dump. We can simply buff it out and recoat it. So that's the basics of hardwood floor, why we like them in rentals. And they also really stand out. Your tenants are gonna walk into your unit and feel the real hardwood underneath their feet, and they're gonna want the place. I've seen it happen time and time again. So consider hardwood in your rentals. We've got a dust-free environment. It's really imperative that between coats we keep all the windows closed. We don't want any little dust particles hitting our floor because that will be in our finish. We don't want to coat over anything. Even one little dead gnat you would see. Now that all 3 coats of our floor sealer are on and dried, I can put in the baseboard. Every product is going to be a little bit different. This product likes to have 7 days to cure, but we can still walk on it the day after. We just wouldn't want to be dragging furniture around or laying rugs down. So this is the day after we installed the last coat. I'm going to run the baseboard. We're going to start finishing up our turnkey and getting ready for our final inspection. When I first started my apprenticeship when I was 16 years old, my first job was to prep floors, sand seams, and after that I graduated to installing baseboards. I was running about 600 linear feet of base in these production townhouses we were building. This is back in the mid-90s. And I figured it out one day. I think in my first year I ran 2 miles of baseboard. So I have some trauma from installing base. I used to install so much baseboard that when I would close my eyes at night to go to sleep, I would see miters and 45s. Anyways, this is a 3 1/4 pre-painted base. This is the base you saw us painting. So it's got 3 coats of a hard trim paint. And I like to cut the whole house and I number every single piece and then I come back in and lay it out and install it. Just that efficiency of doing 1 step at a time, the whole job. There's about 75 pieces, individual pieces of baseboard in this unit. If I do it right, I won't have to recut any of them. Really important that we keep our 16-inch nailing schedule so our pin nails are hitting studs and securing our base tightly to the wall. Once I find a stud, I can just measure over 16 inches. There's always going to be a stud on one side of an outlet box, so that's one good way to find it. I like to put firm pressure downward. And then once I have the first stud, I can just use the 16-inch marks on my tape to put a single pin nail. Now that our baseboard is installed, we have to caulk it into place. Couple of tips on using a caulking gun. Start with a really small hole and be particularly detailed with the angle that you cut on the tip. So this is a 45-degree angle, and I'm gonna direct the bevel of my cut right into my gap. If I don't point the bevel in the right direction, I'm gonna be applying caulking onto the wall. After I do my linear application, I just work my way back with a damp rag and use my finger to slowly apply it to the wall and the top of the baseboard. Caulking is meant to be painted, so after this is done, we'll come back through with a wet 3-inch brush and cut in the top line. So as for costs thus far, I just did a bunch of simple addition. I'm a small brain thinker, and we're at about $160,000 all in on this project. That does include the $32,000 system development fees we had to pay up front. So we're still right on track, about $100 a square foot for overall build costs. When the last bills come in for appliances and our last tax assessment, I'll be able to give the exact number breakdown, but that's where we are roughly right now. We have our appliances going in the back unit. We paid extra for these beautiful slide-ins. As opposed to getting like a $600 freestanding gas range, this is a slide-in gas range. I think I paid about $2,500 for it. Thanks to our friends at Ashland Appliance and Mattress. Shout out to Joel. He usually gives us a pretty good deal. Inside, we have most of the appliances in. We've got our freestanding stainless steel hood. This is a really affordable product. It's about $200. And our custom size fridge. This is a 24-inch wide by 61-inch tall, 10.1 cubic foot freezer over fridge. We're getting ready to slide the gas range in here. I still have to put in baseboard. Chris, who's holding the camera, is working on fences outside. Hopefully we're gonna have everything done. The biggest thing for inspection is hot water, drainage. We have to have all of our fans VTO, so vent to outside here, and everything else is pretty much cosmetic. We can get final inspection before we have our baseboard in or before we have, say, touch-up paint done. So being day 89, some of those little cosmetics we'll do after we get signed off, but trying to make tomorrow's inspection deadline. Beautiful gas range, flat top with Wi-Fi capabilities, in-unit washer and dryer. All we have left in here is baseboard and a nice clean. Be ready to rock. Behind me is our loft access ladder, and it's made out of 5/4 by 4-inch clear vertical grain Douglas fir, and it slides against the wall to stow. We've got a 1/2-inch piece of steel iron pipe going through the slots that I cut in the rails, so it stows against the wall, and also it keeps it from sliding out when we pull it out. I get a lot of questions about these ladders, so I actually made a full how-to build this ladder video. I linked that below, check it out. The inspector is literally on his way out here to give us hopefully give us our final inspection as we're putting the last finishing touches on this place here. One thing they're gonna wanna see every time before they sign you off is proper labeling of the addresses. So in our area, I tried to get 2 separate addresses, but on the ADU play, they usually make you do an A and a B and a C. So that's what we have here. But with the address up and all of our plumbing, all of our electrical, all of our mechanical, all of our framing, everything is done. We should have no problem getting our inspection. Skylar and Dave here today. Southern Oregon friends, if you need trees or landscaping or any ground pounding at all, call Plant Oregon. These guys are amazing. They're dropping in our backflow device right now. We're gonna put in a couple zones and plant a few trees over here. What are you gonna put in, Dave?
We're planting a couple Persian Proteas, a couple Japanese maples, and a red oak.
Nice, nice. And Skylar, tell us what you're doing.
I'm putting some thread tape and dope on these pipes so we don't have any leaks and get some good water usage.
We just pulled it off. The county building inspectors, 2 of them, just left. They signed our job cards for both the front and the back ADU. We have final inspection complete. They did call us on a couple little things. The dryer vent covers, I use these 1/2-inch grates, and they said you can't have those on there because they'll clog up. And they also wanted us to put a couple of fasteners into some collars on the mast for the electrical service. Super simple, we did that. They looked around for probably 30 minutes and signed us off. We made it 91 days. So 1 day over the challenge self-inflicted deadline, and that's only because it took that long to get the gas delivered. We just got the meters dropped yesterday. We were ready for inspection then, but we couldn't get our final until we had hot water, and we couldn't have hot water until we had natural gas delivered to the on-demand water heaters outside. If you want these plans for the ADU that we just built, this 2-bedroom, 2-bath, you can find them for free right now at thataduguy.com under the resources tab on my website. Start planning your ADU today. Thanks, folks.